What is going on? What is going on in the building? Boothang, the lunatic, what's going on? Keep on coming in the building. It's Big Game James back in the house. And guess what? I got my lady, Miss Brianna Dix. She came in on a couple times back in the day, but now she back here in the season. How you going on? How's everything going?
It is going good. It is, I guess crazy time. So as good as, can't I don't know if anybody during this time can really be like, oh yeah, I'm doing great. It's kind of just everybody's like, we're going, we're chugging along.
Right, right. Well, the season ain't chugging along like we want, you know what I mean? But hey,
Oh,
at the end of
I know
the
what you
day,
mean.
it's okay. We'll bypass that and try to look at the positive things right now. What's going on? But let's give a quick introduction for everybody who doesn't know you. Like I said, Brianna Dix from D210 Sports. She's been doing her thing, killing it out there. Give a quick synopsis or breakdown of what you're doing, what you got going on, and then we'll jump right in and talk some Cowboys football.
Yeah, so right now, honestly, it's a little different just with COVID this season. Normally at the start, this season been doing a lot more work from home, writing articles and doing, reports out in the plaza and stuff. But you can find all of my videos and articles on d210.tv. And then of course I'm on Twitter and IG.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that good work you've been doing. You had a great show yesterday with my guy Jay Tuck on Cowboys Fan
Yeah.
Only. That was a great show. I really appreciate watching you guys yesterday, and just getting a little bit of listen to your little Roger Staubach story. You know what I mean? Roger the Dodger. I mean,
He's
hey,
so great.
I love some Roger Staubach. I mean, that's like one of my ultimate guys. I mean, I'm old school, so I got to watch Roger. I got to watch Drew Pearson. I got to watch those guys play, and he is kind of like the icon. I mean, when
Right.
I first met Drew Pearson, I was like, oh, that's Drew Pearson. That's Drew Pearson. You know what I mean? So I can only imagine meeting Roger Staubach because he was always one of my idols. I know you talked about it yesterday, but what is the feeling when you meet one of them old school players that have so much kind of like the aura? You know what I mean? What is that kind
Yeah.
of like?
No, yeah. It was the dynasty, and it's funny because I come in and he, at the end, he like asked me if I wanted a picture, and we like took a picture, and he was showing me some stuff in his office and like some of his military stuff on the wall and everything. And he's just like, cracking jokes about being like, the age of like my grandfather. And I'm like, you are Roger Staubach. Like, we have all of the old like championships, all the old Super Bowls on VHS in my house. Like, trust me, I grew up like watching you, like listening to things on you. Like, trust me, nah, like that's not it. But he is honestly everything that you hear about him. He's more, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Mm-hmm.
such a nice, humble man. And especially for me, coming in, that was the first interview I ever did. And I'm walking into this conference room, but immediately when we sat down, like we both just felt comfortable. He made me feel comfortable. And just, and it's one of those exciting things because you start talking to him about different things, and he just, you see that light and that fire in his eyes still when he talks about
Right.
football. And I brought
Right.
up the Hail Mary pass to him, and he showed me the tattoo. But immediately the moment, I didn't even think I had gotten the word out yet, and he starts giving me like the play by play of that moment, like the what was on the clock at the time, like what yard line they were at. He is like setting this scene, and I'm like, oh my, this is so great, Like, this many years later, and he's still, of course, like, it's he was the one that coined that term, all those years ago. So of course he's gonna have that play like down and ready to go. But it was, yeah, that was definitely. It's gonna be hard to top that one for
Yeah.
sure.
Especially when it's like that's a signature play. I mean, like you said, he named it, he coined it, and now through history, you know it as the Hail Mary. When we see that bomb in a high school game, in a college game, pee wee game, any game, and it says Hail Mary, he's got to get the credit for that. So at the end
Yeah.
of the day, that's still kind of crazy that he really originated that. So I would feel good too if I was old school and everybody was calling it the Hail Mary after we threw that play up. And for real, even when I watch this play to this day, Brianna, I still be thinking that's offensive pass interference on Drew, but that's okay. I don't care. We got it.
But it's just, it didn't get called back like the
yeah, because you know that go well. If that was the Cowboys of 2020 and that was a play, you know we ain't getting that call. You know we ain't getting that call, Brianna. Not in 2020. We got it in the 70s, but 2020 we ain't getting that call this year.
Oh no. And probably someone would have gotten injured on the play.
Exactly. We would have had a season-ending injury the way we've been going with this season. But hey, you know what? Like I said, the season hasn't gone that we wanted. We all know that. It's been a lot of injuries, major injuries. Dak, Tyron Smith, Leo Collins, Blake Jarwin. We had a lot of the cornerbacks that have been off and on. Cheeto, Anthony Brown. Now we got our top corner, Trevin Diggs, out.
Yeah.
Tyler B. Addish is out currently right now. So it's been wild as far as the injury growth. It's been a lot of injuries across the board, and we thought this was going to happen because of COVID. But honestly, how do you kind of feel about just that injury situation this year?
I don't think I've ever witnessed something as crazy as what it's been like for the Cow. I mean, at this point, it's almost like you almost have to laugh because it's just one after another, and it's like, surely that's it, you know. And then it's another cornerstone player, and it's like, my gosh, you know the coaches have to be all saying that, and coaches have even been asked about that, like, you know, are you just like in awe of what has happened this season? And I think that's so hard too for this team, because not only did you not have the off season, but you know, a brand new coaching staff, they were allotted, you know, an extra week during, you know, during the off season workouts. They didn't get that. And so on top of a brand new coaching staff, new defensive scheme, you have all these injuries, and that I feel like has been so detrimental because you don't get to have that chemistry and that consistency with players because you're constantly bringing in guys. You know, you have the revolving door on the offensive line at quarterback, you know, guys coming in and out of all these different positions. And so you're not able to have the same group of guys coming each week, and you're not able to get that, you know, that communication that you need with, you know, guys flipping in and out. So, and I think that's one of the big things, you know, when people talk about, you know, the tanking versus whatever, it's like, no, they need to ride this stinking season out and evaluate this roster with everything they can, with players, with coaches, the whole 9 yards, for just to see what, you know, what you have, and maybe even to test out some more of the young players and see what they bring to the table.
Yeah, we're going to definitely have to see what these young players bring to the table because of all these injuries. But it's been a good thing. It's not good because the injuries happen, but it has been good because we haven't been able to see a lot of the 2020 draft, and even the 2019 draft, and that's been good. Especially with it being under McCarthy's watch, that's good going forward. Shout out to my dog, the Lunatic, with the $2 holla. He says, how can you say we want to win? You start tearing steel. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Also, my guy, Young Wilson. You feel me? 199 holla. I feel you. What's up again? I totally get it. But you know what? Nobody thought about this. But I had one of my homies, his name is Boss Cowboys, and he brought something up to me. And I don't know if you really looked at this. The strength and conditioning coach is a coach that just got elevated from last season. We haven't had a rash of injuries because remember, the last couple of years they started doing the yoga and started doing other things because remember the rash of hamstring injuries and things of that nature. They started changing that. It looked like it was actually working. They got rid of the strength and conditioning coach, elevated the new guy. Now under his watch, Brianna, this mass things of injuries. Now, my guy said that's something to look at, that if that continues to happen, you got to get him out of here. To me, that's something I'm keeping my eye on now because I haven't seen this many rash of injuries for Dallas in a very long time. Let's be honest. I've seen an injury here and there, maybe a season injury, but not this many.
Right. No, I think that's an amazing point. And two, I know kind of more towards the beginning of the season when you had a ton of injuries popping up all over the league and people were like, what is going on? And I think a lot of it too is you have to think, people didn't have their normal workout regimen during the off season. I mean, it was kind of all, on your own individual basis, guys
Mm-hmm.
getting out, having to hold themselves accountable, being around family, not in their normal environment, not having guys keeping them accountable, and kind of pumping them up, doing it with them. I mean, you had to do everything individually. And so I think that was one of the biggest things coming into the season. It's going to be like, okay, the teams that performed the best this season are going to be the ones that got at it during the off season, worked on the physical, but also just getting that mental aspect right. And so I think that has to also play a role in what's happening too. But no, I think that's a great point.
Yeah, so I think that's something for us to keep an eye on going down the line, because if this injuries bug continues to happen, because when you see a rash of injuries, to me, from what I've seen in the NFL, even in just sports in general, sometimes if you have that rash of injuries one year, it usually doesn't happen 2 years in a row. It's like only like a 1 year thing when you have
Yeah,
a
they
bad,
all just kind of
they kind of just go
come
away.
in
Yeah.
waves. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't come like every single year. So that's just something to keep our eye on going down in the future, just with these rash of injuries. But let's jump in on this coaching staff. I want to ask you poignant questions. How do you feel? I know we're 2-7, but how do you feel about this staff? What would you give a grade, even with the 2-7 record? What would you give a grade for McCarthy and his staff right now?
That's a good question. And I think, to be honest, a lot of it is hard to gauge just because of the scenario that's played out in Dallas, with, like we talked about, all the injuries, and a lot of the players, I mean, the majority of your salary cap was on IR,
Mm-hmm.
your biggest players. And so I feel like that has to take into account as well. And just, the scenario of this season, brand new scheme, not really getting that one-on-one face-to-face interaction with guys. But I mean, and it's kind of that, you look at, you say, the coaching, the effort, whatever. And I think one of the biggest things for me with this coaching staff more than anything has just been, some of these personnel things are kind of the biggest questions for me. I don't think you
Mm-hmm.
can blame it all on coaching or whatever. I think a lot of it, it's like, okay, well, the players were put in position to make this play. They just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Smith missing a tackle, or, Daryl Whirling letting this guy run right by him for a touchdown for 7+ yards. That's not coaching. That's you not executing and doing your job on the field.
Right.
So I don't think, I think, of course, it's Dallas. Everybody always wants to throw the coaches under the bus. They did so with, the Garrett and that regime. Well, guess what? They appeased you. They did what you wanted. They brought in a brand new coaching staff, but you still have that culture from last year, and you're still trying to work through all of those things this year with a new system, and getting guys to buy in. And I think you're seeing more of that continuity now.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, for me, it's just kind of hard with all the variables to really make like a good, accurate like grade. You know what I mean?
Do you like the staff though? Do you like McCarthy going forward? Are you, because how Cowboys fans are impatient as hell. Everybody wanted to fire him after 7 or 8 games because it was bad. How do you feel about McCarthy though? Not anybody else, the head coach. Do you like him going forward? Do you think he can turn it around? Even with this season, do you like him going forward as your head coach?
Yes, I think you can, and I think that's an over exaggeration to already be calling for his head in his first year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at a ton of coaches that have gone on to do amazing things. I mean, the guy, won a Super Bowl. I think that's a bit ridiculous, especially with given all the things that have happened this season, to immediately
Mm-hmm.
say, "Oh, we need somebody new." I mean,
Right.
we just brought him in. We got in new guys. Let's give
Right.
them time. Let's see how they build together and what it looks like now next year, the year after. Okay, well then you can start talking and say, no, this isn't working, guys aren't buying in, they're not fighting, blah blah blah. But I don't think this year that you can really say, like I just think that's a little bit of an over exaggeration, which Cowboys fans, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's what we do. I mean,
That's what we do.
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not firing a coach after 1 year.
That's insane. Yeah.
Especially with the rash of injuries. Let me see if he with a full deck, and let's see what happens. But I have confidence in McCarthy. I don't have any confidence in his staff, and I'm going to ask you some questions about that as well. Obviously, we're 2-7 right now. How do you feel? Now, I'm gonna ask you some stuff about, I don't know how deep you can get into it, but Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones. I've been talking about this for a long time. Do you feel that we're going in a good direction with Jerry and Steven the way it is right now? Do you feel good about that? We just had Jerry Jones. And the reason why I ask you that, because I'm frustrated and I want to ask you, and you can tell me how you want to, but I'm frustrated because I have a general manager in Jerry Jones. So I think he's 78 years old. And he comes out and says, well, I like Dorrance Armstrong Jr. He's been doing good for the first 10 weeks. He's got 9 tackles. No, he hasn't. And then you got him coming out and saying Jalen Smith is our cornerstone. I'm not hating on Jalen, but we saw he's had a up and down season, right. Hasn't been consistent. Then he comes out, I think today, saying Ezekiel Elliott is our best player on the roster.
That would be Zach Martin.
Exactly. So here's my thing. If you got our general manager saying these type of things, does that give you confidence down the line that we're going to possibly get to a Super Bowl anytime soon? Tell the truth.
No, I would agree. And I think, to be honest, for me, it always goes back to Troy Aikman's comments. Do you remember when he went into all of this and he said, there isn't basically any other team in the league where you have a general manager and vice president speaking to the media on a weekly basis. I mean, guys need one voice, and right now they have conflicting voices, and they always have. He's always been involved, but I think, yes, in order for this team to get back where they need to be, I think that needs to be less of a voice. And I think those are some things that you saw play out last year. I know, and granted, he didn't get his way with Johnny Manziel, which praises. Right. But I mean, I think, a lot of some of these personnel decisions, I think, are kind of a reflection of things that they've wanted with guys they paid. The decision to have Jason Witten out there as opposed to a Blake Jarwin. I was told that obviously Garrett and a lot of this wanted Blake Jarwin to play more because obviously, I mean, he was the better pass catcher, and that was obviously evident. I mean, the guy was, constantly gaining yardage, moving the chains on third down. So I think, that's kind of one of the biggest things to me when I look at some of those decisions. And I think that's kind of a reflection of the front office. And yes, I feel like there are some issues there, but at the same time, it's like, I don't really feel like there's going to be a resolution because he's always going to want to be involved. And he always has been,
he's always going to be.
Johnson. Oh, I mean, it's always been that way, and it's not going to change. So I feel like they just have to have a better way, I guess, of merging all of it together, but yet the coach being able to have more of a say.
Does that frustrate you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I think it frustrates everybody.
Because there's no change in it. And like I said, I'm not trying to bash people, but it's just frustrating because when I look at the winning percentage, him as a general manager, I think he's been in Dallas 32 years. I checked it out. It was 272 wins against 233 losses, 15 playoff wins, 12 playoff losses. So I think it's like a 54% in 32 years winning percentage and like a close to 55 winning percentage in the playoffs. So when you look at that across the board, that's not bad, but it's just always something that's getting in the way for the Cowboys taking the next step. And I think that's why Cowboys fans get frustrated. And it's like 25 years we've seen this, and we've seen other teams get a general manager, come right in, 3-4 years, start building the team the way they're allowed to. And then next thing you know, they're right in the playoffs. They're consistent in the playoffs. And next thing you know, Super Bowl. I think that's why Dallas Cowboys fans are frustrated, because time after time and time, we have had the talent, but we're always falling short. And I think that's what Cowboys fans get frustrated with that top. But you know what? Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the team in general, because I want to talk about some specific players.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned, I think you talked to Jay Tuck, and he's been in here. Shout out to you, Jay Tuck, about Jalen Smith. Yes. Now, like I said, he came out and said he was the cornerstone. Now, do you think, because I did a show yesterday with Dalton Miller and my guy Mike White, here's my thing. Would it be a big step to you? Because I listened to you yesterday. Do you think, because Jalen Smith is one of the highest paid as far as on the roster, Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're one of the highest paid on the roster, you are supposed to be making certain kind of plays in the game. He is not making them plays. Now, we heard John Jocks Taylor saying that all people in the building, that if he doesn't step up, they may come to him like maybe a pay cut and then outright release him. I don't believe that, because that's Jerry Jones' pick. I don't believe he's going to cut a Jalen Smith. Not at all do I believe that. But let me ask you this. If they cut him, would you think, okay, you know what? It's changing in Dallas. I think we're going in a different direction. But if he keeps him and says it's okay, what do you think about that? Do you think, oh, well, it's just going to be the same old thing? Because let's be honest, Brianna, Jalen Smith is a good player. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he has his limitations. He's not a 3-down player as far as you putting him in coverage. And if you're paying a man that kind of money, you have to be a 3-down type linebacker. They had him at the mic. We've seen that he is not, maybe not saying he's stupid, but maybe he's not the football IQ that you want, because we saw when Sean Lee came back these last 2 games, the defense settled down. When he was out because that COVID, he couldn't be the sidelines or anything like that. The team was in a disarray as far as defense. He comes back, now the team settles down. What do you think about Jalen Smith, and what do you think about him calling him the cornerstone?
Well, I think that's a great point. And I think when I look at it, to me, what's a little disheartening is I think one of the biggest things when I look at him is I don't really feel like they're playing into his strengths and they're utilizing him in the best way possible. Like you said, he's having to do too much, and he obviously is calling the plays. He's having to diagnose everything. Now, granted, at the outset of the season, I think there was a lot of excitement because they were going to move him to weak side linebacker, which he had such, proficiency at Notre Dame. And then you were going to have Leighton Vander Esch at middle linebacker calling the plays. And it was like, okay, yes, Jalen is going to be able to just attack. He's going to be able to just react, attack the ball, which is exactly what his skill set is. But then, I think he's having to do too much at the snap. And I think you've seen that played out. But also, you have to look at it too, that, they're used to the Rod Marinelli scheme of things, just kind of that get up and attack, the one gap. Well, now you have, more of the 3-4 looks and more of that 2 gap where guys are having to kind of sit and hold the line of scrimmage. They're making decisions. Well, then the linebackers react. But in addition to that, Jalen's, having to try to get everybody lined up. And that's just not the way that he works best. And so you're seeing, and especially it's like if he doesn't understand it, if he's confused, well, then no one else is going to have a clue what to do, And so I think you're starting to see more of that consistency and continuity now that you have, with the release of Dontari Poe. Now you have Neville Gallimore, you have Antoine Woods playing more in the interior, and obviously they're plugging holes, and you've already seen how that's had, a positive effect on the linebackers as well as the DBs. So I think for him, definitely he's not really being put in the right positions, but at the same time, like you said, I mean, the tape obviously reveals he would be the first to say this has not been clearly his best season. I mean, the missed tackles, the misdirection plays, and he's way off over here, and guys, wide exposed lanes. So I think they need to do a better job, obviously, of kind of getting this scheme and saying, okay, this is what he's good at. We need to give him the best opportunities to succeed. We need to see what that is. And obviously, I mean, he's going to get a ton of criticism, with the clear eye view, the swiping, and and I think that's kind of been a little bit disheartening for fans too, is it's like they see that, but obviously the production hasn't been there consistently. So yeah, I mean, I'm like you, I don't really know if I believe the whole, like, we take the pay cut or we cut you type of thing, especially when Jerry says, yeah, you're one of our cornerstones. But I think if you're going to call someone a cornerstone, you need to have that something to back it up with. And I don't really feel like we've seen that obviously from him consistently this season.
Right.
And kind of the same thing with, with Ezekiel Elliott saying, oh, he's the best player. Okay. Well, he hasn't had over, I think it's, 50 yards.
He hasn't had
6 games. So it's like, I don't know how you can make that assessment, but.
Right. And so I think that's why we're all frustrated, because you're coming out in the media. I don't listen to Jerry, but just you coming out in the media saying those type of things frustrates me. As I said before, if you're a cornerstone defensive player on the team and you're the linebacker, you're getting paid that salary. I'm not hating on nobody getting their money, but at the end of the day, cornerstone players, you're a linebacker, middle linebacker, they had you at. You need to make plays
Right.
every down. And here's the difference between him and Sean Lee. See, Sean Lee comes in the game, and I was an advocate, and I'm going to talk about Sean Lee here in a second, but I was an advocate of Sean Lee just retiring, okay? Because I know he's a great football mind, but it's just the injury, and you never know when he's going to be available. And we hadn't seen him until almost week 8 this year because of the injury once again. But when I look on the field, I don't see a player that can come in and recognize plays. I see a player that gets lost. I see a player that if you're coming in, I understand that you want to have your defensive tackles to be able to take on the center and the guard and to be able to keep you clean and free. But a lot of times when I watch this all 22 tape, is Jalen moving out the way from the blockers? Is Jalen not putting his foot down on that drop foot? And I get it, that's drop foot. But I feel like he still is protecting that leg because he doesn't want anything to happen to it, because you never know. You have something happen to that leg, your career could be over because you had drop foot. So I feel like he's still protecting it, and he moves out of the way instead of taking on blocks and be able to use his size and power. And that's the frustrating thing.
I think the physical limitations, like you said.
Yeah, and my thing is, you have your general manager coming out saying he's our cornerstone. Now, if you paid him this money and he's going to be on the roster, if he's on the roster after June 1st, I believe his last 2 years going to be guaranteed as far as his salary, because he's already eaten up his roster bonus. I mean, his upfront bonus. So my thing is, what does he really offer the team? He's athletic, but yeah, you're getting a lot of tackles, but are they impactful tackles? When I watched Sean Lee playing the game, when he was at his best, what do we love Sean Lee for? He could diagnose the play, see the play, get in that backfield, meet the player in the hole, shed the block, and get the and make the play. Jalen Smith does not do that. They
don't even cross this line of scrimmage hardly, you know. I mean,
he barely does that. And for what you are getting paid, I think that's why we're all frustrated, because you didn't have to pay him that early, but you did. And now we're in this conundrum where, guess what? Leighton Vander Esch, let me ask you, what do you think about Leighton Vander Esch playing middle linebacker? Because I liked him going in the middle, but I just don't think Vander Esch is physical enough in that middle. What do you think?
No, I think that's a good point. To be honest, I think they just need to put Sean in there. I mean,
but you know what's crazy is,
because I mean,
Sean was
don't get a higher football IQ than him, and I don't remember. I was reading. I don't even remember which quarterback it was, but I was reading an article, and it was some comments that a quarterback had said about Sean Lee, and they said one of the smartest linebackers they had ever gone against was Sean Lee. And he, was talking about a game where, I mean, every play, I mean, he's like, it was like a chess match. And he's like, it was so exciting because every play, like, I would do something and I would think I'd picked him or whatever. And there's Sean Lee. There's Sean Lee. There's Sean Lee. I mean, play after play. And he's having to change things up. Thinks he gets, disguise things. And Sean Lee, of course, picks it up, diagnoses it, reacts, gets the ball carrier. I mean, he's just... I mean, to me, he is a generational talent, and he's always been one of the guys for me that's been so fun to watch. But I mean, you talk with any coach, and they rave about the film study, and I mean, immediately he's back in there, he's doing the work, he's one of the first to get there, one of the last to leave. I mean, he just constantly and I think during his time off, I mean, he was just working on the mental aspect, and looking at different things, and so. Coming back, I mean, he didn't miss a beat, and that's kind of, I feel like, how he's always been, because he's always had those injuries, hasn't been able to stay healthy, but whenever he comes back, I mean, like the game against the Rams last year, I mean, didn't play for a whole week, had the sack, had the interception, I mean, that's just who he is. So I'd say, I mean, put him in.
Well, this is what I'm going to bring to you as well. And my guy, Mike White, has been championing this. I just got on the table. I kind of been thinking about it, but I got on the table. As I said before, last year, I felt like he should have retired and just went into because think about this, Brianna, and I'm going to think what you say about this. If he would have retired last year, right, you could have already had him on the staff, immediately put him on the staff. This year, he could have been your defensive coordinator. Now, I think Sean Lee should be the defensive coordinator. Okay. I think
You aren't alone in that. I think a lot of people are
a
backing you
lot
up
of
on
people are
that.
feeling that right now because just like you said, I watched him even when he was at Penn State. When he tore his knee up at Penn State, he was coaching on the sidelines even at Penn State. He was in the film room. He was helping those linebackers. He was helping those coaches. He's like a coach by nature. That's like his thing. I remember when people were talking about, hey, get Tony Romo down here because no, Tony Romo ain't doing it because Tony Romo Hollywood to me. Tony Romo like his CBS salary. Tony Romo like getting that money. Tony Romo ain't coming on that sidelines dealing with all that drama. But Sean Lee is a guy that can take that. I feel like Sean Lee is a guy that eats that. So what are your thoughts about putting him on the staff? And you got Mike Nolan, right? Let's say the defense comes back to respectability. Sean Lee retires and he wants to come on the staff. I don't think Sean Lee needs to sit there for 2 or 3 years to get prepped. We've seen guys come out of nowhere that have been general managers, head coaches, coordinators that have never had any experience. What do you think about Sean Lee being the defensive coordinator in 2021?
I mean, that's a pretty broad jump.
Is
Not
that
even
wild?
having him as like a linebacker coach, not anything just immediately. But I mean, I think if he retires and wants to get into coaching, which I mean, I don't think there's any question that he will be a coach eventually and be one at a high level. But if it did come to that, I say definitely make a spot for him. I mean, I think if anybody could come in and make an instant impact as a coach, I think it would be him.
Yeah, and here's the thing that I think a reason why they should really consider it because number one, um the he has a rapport of his players. He has a rapport from his peers. I feel like they're going to respect what he says. And like you said, he's a football mind. Like this is a guy who studies. This is a guy who knows the game. This is a guy who knows other people's offenses. And he's young. This is the thing with me, Brianna. I'm tired of seeing these old ass defensive coordinators, these old ass coaches, 60 years old, 62 years old. Let's continue to bring like Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is a young mind. He's young. You can grow with him. You get these guys that are 50 and 60 years old. It's like, man, dog, I don't want to see your old ass no more. I want to see some young players. So that's another thing where I want to see a young guy be able to come in this who's a defensive mind. I want to ask you this. We need a defensive mind. We've had offensive minds in the building for a very long time. It's time to get a defensive mind because that's where we're lacking on the side of the ball. When we see the Cowboys, we've had offense. We've had offense. Our problem is our defense. We need to get a defensive mind in there. If we can get a defensive mind to really lock it down, get the players that they want, and have the full control they want, I think that's where we maybe see some changes going down the line. But I think as long as we concentrate on the offense and don't get a defensive mind, we're still going to go in these circles. In the way if you see the season, it's going to happen every single year because what do we always have? We have defensive lapses, defensive misplays, defensive give ups. It's been a problem for a very long time here in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a great point. And I think definitely going into the draft and next season, defense needs to be the focus because, yeah, I mean, yes, you had the turnovers and, the differential in with the offense and, leading the league in fumbles for, several games and, having to come from behind, not being able to get the run game going, having to be that pass heavy team.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely next year, yes, you've got to figure out this defense, get, guys working in this scheme, figure out, look at each player, see, okay, what is their skill set? How do they best work? Where do we need to put them? What technique? I mean, they've got to be able to figure all these things out for next year, get guys together with chemistry. And I think once you get kind of that continuity and a consistent group out there, I think you're going to see some improvement. But I mean, just the right guys in positions. Why was Daryl Worley out there?
Right.
Why were Antoine Woods and Neville Gallimore not playing? You know what I mean?
Right.
They need to be able to get these guys in there. And okay, if they're paying a lot of money but they're not doing anything, let's put in some other guys and let's see how they go out. And I think that's one of the things they'll be able to do the rest of the season is, okay, well, if he ain't doing it, let's put in this guy. We'll see how he does. At this point, it's like, what do you got to lose? You're 2-7.
Right.
Let's just figure it out.
figure it out. And you know what? A lot of times it seems like the Cowboys play people because of salaries. I mean, just in my opinion, do you follow the money? You see guys who have a
Oh,
higher salary.
constantly, year
It's
after year.
it's year after year, and I think that's the frustrating part. You see somebody who has a higher salary, and it's almost like in Cowboys land. You know they're going to play because they have this higher salary, so they're going to get the ball. They're going to be on the play, and I think that's what frustrates us as well. But let's talk about this matchup with these Minnesota Vikings. Last
Mm,
year, it was came down to the end of the game, came down to the wire, 28-24. I seen your video today. Obviously, it was a great video. Just to thank you, by the way, when you were breaking down Dalvin Cook and you were talking about
thank
DeMarcus
you.
Lawrence and those guys. Um, Last year, Dalvin Cook didn't really kill the Cowboys on the ground. He had 26 carries, I believe, for 97 yards. He only averaged less than 4 yards a carry. But where he really killed us was in the passing game. He was 7 for 7 on his catches. I think he had 86 yards receiving, 2 scores on in the air, 12.3 yards average. What do you think the Cowboys can do in this matchup to really stop him in this game? Because they got Justin Jefferson, they got Adam Thielen, they got Randall.
Right.
Right. So, what do you think the Cowboys need to do to really stop Dalvin Cook in this game?
Well, and with this one, it's like I don't think that stacking the box is really going to do it this time, because then that gives you favorable matchups for Adam Thielen, for
Mm-hmm.
Justin Jefferson, and they will kill you.
Right.
And with PFF, Cook has the highest rushing grade. It's like 90.5 against stacked front. So you're not going to get him that way, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he consistently gets containment to the outside. And I think one of the biggest issues for the Cowboys with in their run defense this season has been just no containment to the outside. I mean, you have man to man, you have corners going to shadow their guys, but then you have a defensive end jumping inside, but then you have no containment to the outside, and you have these
Mm-hmm.
exposed holes. Quarterbacks can run all day, running backs can run all day, which is what we've seen over and over. Give credit where it's due. They did better against the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that is a totally different animal with Dalvin Cook this week. I
Right.
mean, best running back in the NFL right now, leads in like every category. So to me, that's something, and especially with his pass catching ability, yeah, you're not going to beat him, I don't think, stacking the front. So to me, it's just going to be, tight coverage, being able, and I think with the secondary, I think you're seeing more continuity. You're seeing less of the eye discipline issues that they had for a while. But it's, to me, this is going to be one of the biggest tests that this team has faced, specifically with
Do
their
you feel
offense.
do you
Their
feel good
pass
about
rush isn't super great, but offensively, for sure, Dalvin Cook.
Well, I mean, but you know what? I feel good about this game, Brianna. I'm keep it real. Like when we played Philly and Pittsburgh, those were, I said, both of those games we could win both of those games. I wasn't really scared of Pittsburgh's offense. I felt like we could stay with them, and we did. I felt like we could move the ball in their defense, and we did. And I feel like this is the same situation with Minnesota, because we got to look at, number one, when we played Minnesota the first game, they had Daniil Hunter, who had 14 and a half sacks. He's not playing this game. They also had Anthony Barr, who's a legit player in this league. He's not playing in this game. Both of those guys are out on IR. So that's huge for us. Also, Linville Joseph is not on the team anymore. He was a huge run stopper as well. So they don't have that front line that they used to. And this defense is not as good as it was last year. Also, they lost George Edwards, who's on our staff this year, and he has his son coaching the team. And they've taken a step back as far as defense. They also have some rookies on the outside. They got Cameron Dantzler. I think he had a concussion issue. They got oh my gosh, the little guy. He came from TCU. I can't remember his daggone name. But they have a lot of rookies that are starting on that secondary, and I feel like we can take advantage. Now, here's my thing. Andy Dalton, I think, is going to go back and be the starter. Do you feel good with Andy Dalton being the starter, or would you rather see Go Gadget Gilbert get up in there? That's my dog. That's what I call him, Go Gadget Gilbert. Would you rather see Gilbert in there getting some reps, or do you think it'll be a quick leash for Dalton if he struggles early?
I wanted Garrett to start. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
Garrett Gilbert to start 100%. I think he played an amazing game against the Steelers, and I don't think you can give him enough credit. I mean, they came in fifth ranked defense. showed amazing poise in the pocket, showed his little bit of mobility, being able to swing drives, finally
Right.
able to get some rhythm, spread out the
Right.
ball to different receivers. So I honestly was kind of surprised. I mean, I get that obviously Andy Dalton's been a starter for 9 years, with the Bengals, and with this team, it's all about that experience level. So of
Mm-hmm.
course, I'm gonna go with Andy Dalton. So I think they'll kind of ride it out, see how he does, and I mean it. Guys have said they feel like they've gotten into a great rhythm this week. He's feeling good.
Are they just saying that, Brianna?
Right, but it's like you don't really. I mean,
how you got a
said
great
that,
rhythm and
said
he ain't
that
even been playing?
They talked about the confidence and all that, and we see how that played out. So, but I say if he gets in there and it's what we saw before, then I would say put in Garrett Gilbert.
Because my thing is, Brianna, what are we going to lose? Just like my guy, I mean, what are you going to lose? I think Andy Dalton actually will play better. Maybe it's just a blind thought. I think he actually will play a little bit better just because I don't think that Minnesota defense is the same. Now, we'll feel like they are going to bring pressure because they brought a lot of pressure against Dak in that game, and they brought a lot of fake pressure, kind of sending the pressure and then jumping back in coverage, giving you different looks. They were coming that way with Dak Prescott. Maybe I feel like maybe Andy Dalton sat back and said, okay, they played pretty good the last game, so I feel a little bit better on this lineup. But also, I think that he should get a quick yank because Andy Dalton ain't gonna be with the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, they're not keeping Andy Dalton, I don't believe, after this year. And Garrett Gilbert, even though he's not a young player, that's somebody who can be a competent backup for you maybe down the line. So wouldn't you want to see more of him, especially if he could win a game or two for you? That would make you feel better down the line and say, hey, if Dak ever goes down, we got a quarterback that's, not going to cost us a lot of money. We still can keep Ben DiNucci back in the cut if you want to keep him, and we'll feel better that somebody can win games because Andy Dalton's not going to be here, and that's the main reason why I want to play Gilbert. I want to see if Gilbert can win some games for Dallas, because if he can win some games for Dallas, then you can say, okay, now we have a backup. Andy Dalton ain't going to be no backup here in Dallas no more, but this guy could. So let him get in there and see if he can win a game or two so you can go ahead and say this is a guy that we can have in the back. And we ain't got to pay him a lot of money. And the quarterback position is not something that we have to worry about the next few years if we're keeping our Dak Prescott down the line. That's just my opinion on that.
Right. And I think with Gilbert, too, you don't have to change up the game plan as much. So obviously, with Dak, he dual threat. But, Andy Dalton doesn't have that mobility. He doesn't have that. But, I mean, we saw that from Garrett Gilbert. I was like, okay.
I know when they did a couple read options with him, I said, what the hell? What?
Yeah. So it's like they can dial those up. They can make that. That's not going to be such a big of a transition, or, having to kind of put in different plays and look at different things, because he's able to do more of what Dak has done.
Yeah. So like I said, let's get go Gadget Gilbert in there. Let's keep him in there. Let's keep working with him because, like I said, I want to see something for the future. And Andy Dalton is not the future in Dallas, in my opinion, and he's not going to want to take a backup job. Now, with this offensive line, Ezekiel Elliott, we heard Jerry Jones saying, hey, Ezekiel Elliott is our best player on the team. What do you think about this season with Ezekiel Elliott? Is it the offensive line or is it the Ezekiel Elliott, or do you kind of think it's a combination of both in this situation, or why he's had his basically his worst year in his whole career since he's been with the Cowboys?
Right. I think it's a combination of everything. I think part of it is, the offensive line at points with blocking, but I don't really think you can place all of it on that, because, I mean, look at Tony Pollard. He's had great runs. He's been able to make guys miss. He's been able to break to the second level. And I mean, even before, Dak's injury, when, they were coming from behind, I mean, it was predominantly, the pass heavy, but I mean, he was getting touches. He had touches, but he just wasn't gaining those yards. And I think obviously, you have teams kind of game planning specifically for him, where maybe the holes weren't quite as open as they were for, say, Tony Pollard. But I think too, Zeke I think he's putting a lot of pressure on himself, especially after the fumbles, to to perform and have kind of that perfect game, or to break for a long run. And so he's thinking, and he's not just hitting those holes, and kind of the instantaneous and the vision that we've seen from him, and obviously that he had at Ohio State and he had earlier on in his career. And so, I mean, it's to be honest, it's wild, when I feel like when you look at this season for him, and just the games that he's had and just the up and down, and it's just, you kind of don't really know exactly what the answer is. And so I think it's just kind of a combination of, really all of it.
Yeah. Would you like to see Tony Pollard be like splitting carries with Zeke? I know Zeke is the workhorse. I know he's the guy that's going to get the carries. But would you like to see, would you like to see, hey, let's feed Zeke 25 to 30 carries, or would you like to see like one of that, maybe like the 50-50 split? Let's see Tony Pollard get about 12 to 15 carries and Ezekiel Elliott get around 18 carries. Do you think that's pretty fair, or do you think let's keep on feeding Zeke and let him get into a rhythm and let him take this, or let's get more Tony Pollard involved and let him get carries? What's your thoughts on that?
I think at this point, I think it'd be nice to kind of split it and see how that goes, kind of change things up, maybe make things a little bit more challenging for the defense, not really knowing, okay, which both lined up, who's going to be taking this, which guys could potentially be the pass catcher. I mean, I think Tony, when you look at what he's done and just how instinctive he is with runs, patience, letting the blocks develop, I think he's done a phenomenal job this season. And, in some games where obviously it wasn't getting it done with Zeke, or, the fumbles were happening, he came in, was kind of gradually getting, the 6 yards and kind of consistently moving those chains and helping the Cowboys get, further down the field. So I think, why not at this point? I mean, I get Zeke's your feature back and, the guy that's getting the money, but at some point you have to say, okay, well, this is the guy that's getting the yards and is having, more production on the field. So to me, he deserves snaps, the same as Zeke at this point.
Exactly. But once again, it's follow the money. Whenever you got that salary in Dallas, you're going to play. And that's why we get frustrated.
Dallas politics for you.
The Dallas politics, man. But hey, so let me ask you this. Dallas had a pretty good draft this year. We're excited about the draft. A lot of the players we can almost get, if Reggie Robinson and Bradley and I finally get in there in these 7 games, we could pretty much we're all clamoring from Bradley and I and Reggie and I. We asking, please free these gentlemen, please free them, because we want to see them, dog. We want to see them. But let's say, hey, we don't see them. Who has been impressive to you as far as a young player? It don't have to be this first year. What impressive young player has been on the offensive side first, and then we'll go to the defensive side? What young players impressed you on the offensive side? Hey, man, I'm excited to see him here and beyond.
Oh, that's a great question. For offense, for me, it's kind of I guess you could say a twofold, so to speak, but I think Tyler Biadasz has done an amazing job.
I was going with you.
He has done such a great job coming in there, commanding that offensive line. As to be honest, as guys just consistently kind of change around him and peter off, he's done an amazing job. Just the clean operation and, different quarterbacks. I mean, I think that's, and granted, you've got a guy like Zach Martin that's there, to help him out. But I mean, even coming out of Wisconsin, I think you saw a lot of kind of some of those Travis Frederick traits. And obviously he, anchored the line for Jonathan Taylor, but I think he's done really a phenomenal job in the games that he's done. But also, CeeDee Lamb, I think, has done really well. And granted, it's been a little different, hard to gauge, as you've had a different guy under center for the past several weeks. And so obviously that's impacted them. But I think he's done a great job, not only just in some of the catches that he's made, and just in his route running, the fluidity, but also that guy. I mean, his blocking. I mean, he's a willing blocker. He'll take a hit, to open things up for guys. And you've seen that several times. So I've been really impressed with him as well. And I think, the more consistency they get at quarterback and kind of getting some guys in, getting, the offensive line kind of at a stable spot, I think, it'll just up for him, and the sky's the limit for honestly both those guys.
Yeah, I would agree. especially with the Beatish over CeeDee Lamb. Now, trust me, I'm not disrespecting Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb. I love him. I love the pick. But it was kind of like we all knew he was kind of going to be good. We were excited. We knew CeeDee Lamb was going to be good, but we were all kind of wondering about Tyler Beatish. We knew because his junior year had a really good year, and then he had a setback with the injury, and he kind of fell back a little bit. So we were all interested to see, especially with Travis Frederick going out, and he played at Wisconsin. Could he be like the second coming of a Travis Frederick? And I feel like he has, even though his Pro Football Focus numbers haven't been great, you can still see that he has the maturity. We had Duke Manyweather on here, and he loves him as far as what he brings to the table. And I feel like you do have the center for the future. And that's one of the harder positions, especially when you're making all the calls. You got to get everybody together. You got to be in sync with your quarterback. That's a really big job. And for him to come in like he did, especially when Joe Looney started and when Joe Looney got hurt and he came right back in. He came right in, didn't miss a beat. I know he's been injured now, but I've been very impressed with him, and I'm really excited, especially with Travis Frederick going, because now that's a solidified spot that you have at your center position that you don't have to worry about along the offensive line. We know what CD does, but I'm super excited, and shout out to my guy, the Ninja. He told me about him. One of my guys who's one of my members, Brianna, he told me about him like way last year when nobody was talking about it. He said, listen, watch this Tyler Beatish kid, and he won't let me live it down. Every time I see Tyler Beatish, he's like, I told you. He's like, he's like, I did not tell you. I was like, okay, bro.
Yeah. Well, even just listening to some of the veterans talk about him just makes you even more excited. Like when Zach Martin, when he came in and he was talking about him. And of course, Kellen Moore raved about him. But Zach Martin was like, he didn't make any mental mistakes at all in that game. And I mean, he just, and that's one of the things I love about him is because you get so much focus on the physical aspects of the game. But earlier on in the week at the Salvation Army thing, I was talking with Dat Wynn, a former linebacker and quality control coach in Dallas, and he was saying, and even talking with Tony Casillas on Neville Gallimore, and they were like, so much of the game is mental. The mental aspect of the game. They're like it's 85% mental as opposed to like 15% physical. And so I think, and that's one of the great things that Tyler has, and just his work ethic. The coaches talk about all the time, constantly sits in the front, asks great questions, is constantly engaged, and just wants to genuinely be the best that he can be and help out this team. And he's done that, and all the hard work, everything he's done throughout the week with the film study it's showing up on game days.
Yeah, like I said, I've been excited about this class, and even the 2019 has stepped up a little bit as well. So it looks like these draft classes are starting to come along. Let's jump on the defensive side of the ball. Who's impressed you defensively, young person? Because we know about the D-Laws and those guys. What person has impressed you defensively on the team? It doesn't matter. You can say it's Trevin Diggs. That can be the obvious, whoever you want. Who has impressed you? Because I got one person that's impressed me. I want to see what you say.
I mean, not to take any credit away from Trevon Diggs, he has done an incredible job. Obviously it hasn't been perfect all the way around, but obviously, I mean, the 2 interceptions that he had, and just, I think his coverage, he really improved throughout the season and has done better in that regard. But to me, honestly, Neville Gallimore is very exciting to me, and he's a guy that I really enjoyed watching, especially against the Steelers. I mean, a lot of their ability in stopping the run, I credit it to him, and I know Cheeto gave a lot of the credit to Antoine Woods, and that I mean, he did great as well.
Right.
But I mean, Neville Gallimore, I mean, he was just immediately getting off the box, getting ball carriers, not letting him get past the line of scrimmage. I mean, he had a phenomenal game. Granted, I mean, wasn't perfect, but I think just the more he plays and the more added reps he gets, just the more confident he's going to be. And I think, that's one of the biggest things, obviously, for a rookie is just, I was talking with D-Law about it, and he said, just trusting yourself and, not, there's so much pressure as a rookie, especially with Cowboys at 2-7, to to perform and to do well at this time, and feel like the weight's on your shoulders. But I mean, he just came in there and drastically helped the guys up front, which in turn helped out linebackers, helped out the back end. So I'm really excited to see what kind of comes from him as the season progresses. He's exciting for me.
Yeah, he's been exciting for me. I was excited, for us getting him in the third round. I was super excited because I didn't think Gallimore was going to last until the third round. So that was huge, because he was
his versatility. I mean,
yes,
he can play like anywhere from B-Got to B-Got. I mean, he is. Yeah, I'm all about him.
I like Gallimore, but this is a person that, and I'm not saying he is extraordinarily great, but what I am saying is, Brianna, a lot of people have been clamoring for this kid. This is a guy who's been impressive for me, Donovan Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And the reason why I said him, because I made a video about him over the summer, and I said, let's give him a chance. I just something about him. I didn't say he was going to be, the great safety, but just something about him. I loved his work ethic. When they drafted him, I listened to his conference call with Jerry Jones. I just saw the passion in his voice. And this is a guy, I know workout videos don't mean nothing. I know that, but this kid every year is going ham on the workout videos. It's like I'm always putting in work. And when we finally got to see, when Darian Thompson got sat down and we seen Xavier Woods been struggling, when we finally seen Donovan Wilson get on the field, we saw the first couple of games, he was like a chicken with his head cut off, but that's all right. He settled down and he's gotten better each week. Donovan Wilson is somebody I'm excited about, because now if you can get a dynamic safety, because Woods ain't it. I don't care. Woods ain't it. If you can get a dynamic safety, whether in free agency, probably not going to happen because Stephen Jones ain't going to spend no damn money. But maybe if you get one in the draft, come on, let's keep it real. Let's keep it real, Brianna. I'm speaking truth. That's why you laughing. That's why you laughing right now, because I'm speaking so much truth. Mm-hmm. But maybe we can get a dynamic one in the draft, because if we can get dynamic, it makes, I feel like, Donovan Wilson better. I think he is a guy that you can keep, slide him to a strong safety, get you a strong free safety, and then it makes it better. So Donovan Wilson, to me, has been impressive by everybody saying, because everybody was like, well, he couldn't play on the last regime. He's not playing on this regime. He must not be good. But now we've seen that that's kind of a false statement, because all he needed was a little bit of work, and he's gotten better and better, in my opinion.
Right. And I think that's one of the benefits of having the new coaching staff, is they're not married to any of these guys. I mean, it's like everybody kind of has that fresh start, and you're seeing that with guys like Donovan Wilson that are getting more opportunities, and they're taking advantage of them. The strip sack, the 2-point conversion that he broke up in the back of the end zone. I mean, he's been a heck of a player, and I just love kind of the relentless nature that he has. And I know that was kind of a cliche phrase, in the Jason Garrett regime, that was kind of always thrown around. Oh, just a relentless spirit. But I mean, really, honestly, though, I mean, just in his pursuit, I mean, he has that, and I think he's going to be a great player, and it's exciting to finally get to see him,
right,
in the backfield. And I mean, he's a guy that you certainly root for, because I mean, every time he's out there, it seems like, he's popping up and making plays and making stops. So let's keep on with it.
Let's keep on with it. Let's keep on. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it rolling. So we're about to head off of here. I appreciate your time coming on here, but I want to get your outlook on the record. We're currently 2-7. People have been saying team tank. We can still win the division, because obviously Washington, Giants, Philly, it's a still up in the air division. It's not really a tough division. Are you, I don't want to say the team. Yeah, you feel me? I don't want to say, are you the team tank or whatever, because I feel like every single game, if you're not playing hard, that's weird. You're supposed to play every game to win. If you don't win, that's just what it is. You're not purposely tried to lose. That's not that's just doesn't make sense to me. But what would you rather? Would you rather Dallas have a bad record and get a high draft pick, or would you rather them play hard, win some games, and then maybe be in the middle of the pack draft pick?
To be honest, for me, I'd rather see them play hard and get in the middle than lose the rest of them and get a high draft pick. I mean,
I don't trust them.
At this point, you need to evaluate your players. You need to evaluate coaches. You need to evaluate everything, and you need to see as many guys as you can. If you want to throw in some young guys, okay, great. to evaluate the roster. But at this point, you need to go through everything and do a check down and full come to Jesus meeting, so to speak, for this team at this point. So I don't think that, yeah, purposefully just trying to whatever at this point. I mean, you need to get all hands on deck for next year. You know, you need to be looking forward to that and trying to get as much out of the rest of the season as you can, because I mean, when you think about it, really, this season's only halfway over. And
Right.
granted, it's been a very, very tough lingering season for Cowboys fans. My goodness. But you know, you're already starting to see improvement really in all three phases at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the defense finally able to stop the runs, able to get turnovers. And then on the offense, you know, with Gilbert, you finally had that rhythm, the continuity. You were able to get the
Mm-hmm.
run game going a little bit. Tony Pollard. So I mean, you're seeing improvements. So I
Mm-hmm.
think at this point, you just need to continue to try and work through it and see, you know, okay, where can we evaluate? What do we need to do for next year and get this thing rolling?
Yeah, I agree with that. I've never really been a team tank. I never understood that when they say tank. You play hard, and if you just lose, that's just what happens. But
Right.
I'm gonna be
This
honest.
is the National Football League.
Yeah,
You
this
don't play to
you
lose.
play to
No.
win the game, like Herm Edwards said. But here's my thing with this, Brianna. I don't trust him. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't trust him that they'll make the right decision if we're like a 2-14 or 4-12. I don't trust that they're gonna
No,
make the
that's
right.
valid. That's
I
fair.
don't trust they're going to make the right decision with a very high draft pick. But if it's more of a middle pack draft pick, I feel like they could probably maneuver in there and make it happen. I just don't trust them with the top 5 pick that they're going to do the right thing, because I'm going to segue to this question. Do you think that they're going to sign Dak Prescott? Because I have my doubts. And the reason, before you answer this, Brianna, the reason why I have my doubts is because they came out with this COVID thing. Jerry Jones specifically said in his interview, well, we didn't sign Dak because of COVID. That's not what I heard in the beginning. That's not what I heard. That's why I'm frustrated. Then I heard Stephen Jones in that same interview and say, yeah, it was COVID. Well, I seen all these other players getting signed because of COVID, so don't bring that excuse to me. Then I seen you sign other players on Dallas that, okay, they're good, but are they the cornerstone like Dak Prescott is? He's proved that he's cornerstone when he went out on his injury. He's proved who the cornerstone of this team is. So, do you think, in your opinion, that they're going to sign Dak Prescott to a long-term deal? Because I sincerely have my doubts.
I have my doubts, and I don't know if they will. That they should and they need to. But yeah, that's the thing, is if, and I think the longer this thing's drawn out and the more it didn't happen is when really the kind of the you were like, okay, what's going on here? You know, you're constantly saying he's our franchise quarterback. You're constantly saying in interviews that you're all in on this guy, but why is he
Mm-hmm.
not getting paid? You know,
Right,
why is this at a stalemate? Why is this not getting done?
right.
And I think if anything else, this whole situation has helped Dak's case. And I mean, to be at this point, I don't know how you can look at him and not think that he deserves that contract. I mean, the way that this team has spiraled, I mean, how they fought for him. And I mean, the guy, I mean, he's immediately thrown his foot in the ground, you know, trying to continue playing. I mean, this guy seriously gives his all every single game. And you saw the numbers he was putting up, you know, playing almost a perfect game every week to try and get his team a
He
victory.
had to play a perfect
Yeah, I mean, he
game.
had to play a perfect game. He's like saying he couldn't do anything else. So I mean, it's just he puts it all on the line, and I mean, he has the stats to back it up, but he also has the intangibles and the right attitude and the right work ethic and the right leadership ability. And I mean, the guys in that locker room would go through a brick wall for him, and rightfully so. So he deserves that money, but it's the question of, yes, why haven't they given it to him, and will they?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just don't trust this, and that's what I'm really frustrated right now, Brianna, because I'm nervous. Because I feel like if they don't sign a Dak Prescott and they go with one of these rookies, I'm gonna be pissed off. I'm gonna be mad as hell. Because my thing is, you developed another quarterback for 4.5 years, almost 5 years, to where he is a
Mm-hmm.
franchise quarterback, and then you would let him walk to go somewhere else, or where he's going to win. If he goes somewhere else to a decent organization, he is going to win. And you
Oh,
really want to
yeah.
go with starting. I don't care about a Trevor Lawrence. I don't care about a Justin Fields. I don't care about none
Mm-hmm.
of these quarterbacks. Jerry Jones's track record with drafting quarterbacks high is terrible. period, unless he had Jimmy Johnson drafting Troy Aikman. Other than that, it hasn't been a good track record with him drafting quarterbacks. So I don't want them drafting any kind of quarterbacks. And I don't know where in the hell people are talking about Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. Yeah, they may be good, but that's a good guess. That's a good guess. And you're really going to take that chance of starting over
someone that's proven in the league
proven
already and has done everything for you and put it all on the line?
He's done everything that you wanted. When we always hear about Stephen Jones, I'm talking about the right kind of guys when they were following the Jason Garrett mantra. Well, isn't Dak Prescott the right type of guy for you? So I don't want to hear any excuses from these guys. If these guys drop the ball and don't bring back Dak Prescott, oh boy, I told people I'm just gonna shut down my YouTube for a year. I'm just a whole damn year. I'm not because that just doesn't make any sense for you to start the hell back over with an unknown. I don't care how good they are. They are unknown.
Oh my God, it's gonna be. Oh yeah, there's gonna be hell to. I mean, people are gonna spaz out because I mean, sure, people may have had their weird doubts about him prior to the injury, but I think even after that, I mean, even the haters, I don't think how anybody could look at that and not say, man, like he's just the guy that you can't help but root for. I mean, he's just. I mean, you look at the character qualities and just everything that you would want in a quarterback, and he is that. He is that. He is the modern cowboy, you know, and kind of that same Roger Staubach mantra. So it's like, yeah, how can you not go with somebody like that? But good Lord, we're about to see it all again, and I'm not looking forward to it.
And that's one of the last points I'm going to say is what's frustrating is that we could have already had this done instead of us talking about a draft pick right now, maybe possible. Exactly. Instead of us talking about a draft pick or maybe who we're going to talk about on defense or offense, what are we going to be talking about again, Brianna? Dak Prescott. That's a distraction. That's what I'm talking about when I get frustrated with this front office. I'm not saying they got to be perfect. They have done good drafts. They have built and constructed a good team. They are not in a salary cap hell. So let me not just bash the Joneses. But let me just say this. When I see these type of little things like that, this is why I feel like the Cowboys continue to go in circles. They keep on playing these games. You got a guy here who's done everything you wanted, but you don't pay him. You got other guys that are not doing what they need to for the team, and they are getting paid, and they are getting the paid, and they have these extended contracts. And it's just a frustrating part. And then we won't go out there and get anybody in free agency. I get that. You don't want to overspend. I get it. But there are maybe one or two players that can be dynamic for your team that can make a difference to get you over the hump. And I feel like the reason why the Cowboys keep going in these circles, because you have people in this front office that are more businessmen. I ain't hating y'all businessmen. Y'all got the Cowboys to get money and be still the top grossing organization out there. But when I continue to go back and look at the football moves, we're still going around in circles because of the simple, small mistakes that are going on in this organization. And I feel like that's what keeps us from going and taking that next step. And I feel like that's going to continue for a very long time. I don't want to be that guy that's a hater like that. But when I see these type of things, it's just what it is. When you see these quick turnarounds from teams, Brianna, it's because the owner is backing off and saying, hey, I trust you with this. Go make this happen. Let's go do this. And if it doesn't work, then we move on. But when you keep on putting yourself in saying you're making these decisions and you're not really the football guy, I feel like we're just always going to be a step behind. That's just my opinion.
Right. And I think that's one of the things that we'll begin to see play out, you know, the rest of this season is, okay, who are the guys that they are prioritizing? Who are the guys that they are putting on the field? You know, and those are some things that we'll be able to talk, you know, more extensively on, you know, as the rest of the season plays out and into the off season. And I think the rest of the season is going to be a good gauge, you know, moving forward. And, you know, how you evaluate this coaching stuff, what these decisions have led to. And it's funny, you mentioned free agency, and it's like, well, we see how those acquisitions turned out. A lot of them you don't even have anymore.
Right.
Dix didn't make the team, and he was expected to be one of the starting safeties, didn't even make it. You already have
this was a terrible free agent, right? Well, this was a terrible, right?
You
This is
know?
a terrible free agent class. And
Mm,
even let's think about last year, Brianna, the Robert Quinns and the Randall Cobbs, those guys that we picked up, you didn't even keep them after 1 year. Now they went on and haven't did anything anywhere else. I think Robert Quinn hasn't did any too much and Randall Cobb. But I just feel like it's just I mean, you got to get some dynamic players. You don't have to get 5 free agents and spend all this damn money. You don't have to do that. But maybe one person that can make the difference for your team can get you over the hump, especially if we're looking at the safety position or a defensive tackle. That
right.
one position that you pay, you can still build around with your draft, but you can get that one person that you pay and say, this can be a guy that we want to look down for the future. They're just getting these guys on
Right.
1 or 2 year deals and then they recycle them to somebody else. You got to sign somebody in free agency that can be a core person for your team. If you do that, whether it's a safety or a defensive tackle, you can still build around with the draft and have your regular guys, and you can do it. But hey, who am I don't own the Cowboys, so maybe I just don't know.
Right. Or you know, too, you see the kind of undervalued people that weren't necessarily high drop picks. You know, you look at what Jeff Heath did as an undrafted free agent. I think he was one of the most underappreciated people here. And now you see what he's doing with the Raiders, and it's like, my gosh. Like,
All right,
ooh,
I'm gonna leave Jeff Heath
you
alone though.
know?
I'm gonna leave Jeff Heath alone because I got on people about everybody trying to act like he damn Air Reed over there. Okay, I get it. Jeff Heath did good. Okay, Jeff Heath did good. I'm not hating on Jeff Heath, but Lord have mercy, people like I miss Jeff Heath. I don't miss Jeff Heath. Okay, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't miss Jeff Heath. He's good as a backup. He's getting plays as a backup. And people, us understand this. We need a dynamic safety and not a Jeff Heath. So stop it. That's just my opinion. But
Yeah,
hey,
that's how you really feel.
I'm just saying.
I didn't get it in that.
I'm just saying, you feel me? But hey, I'm gonna let you get off here. Thank you for your time. We went a good hour and something, man. Thank you for coming on the late night high. Well, it's not the late night hype, but it's still kind of late night. So I definitely appreciate you coming here. Let everybody know where they can find you. Please go follow Miss Brianna. She has that good stuff. She got her Facebook page. I'll be sharing her stuff on Facebook. She got her Twitter. I'm telling you, she is thorough, but what she brings to the table. And she's got a lot of good info. So break down where they can find you, check all your good stuff so they can continue to follow you and what you do.
Yes, so I am on Twitter at Dix Brianna, Instagram at Brianna M Dix, and then all of my videos and articles you can find on d210.tv. There's a lot of Cowboy stuff going on there.
A lot of Cowboy stuff. Now, how long you been doing this? Right quick.
So I started at the end of, oh my gosh. I started like at the very end of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
So the season had pretty much already ended. So really I had the full 2018, 2019. So this was my third season with D210. So this one's obviously been a very, very different scenario and been a challenge just, with content wise this season, not being able to, the one-on-ones like normal and things like that in the store. I mean, it's just a crazy time.
Right. So is this something that you're going to be, I'm not telling you to leave your job or anything like that, but do you think this is going to be something that, hey, this is just my dream job, I'm going to be always messing with the Cowboys? Or do you look to maybe kind of expanding, maybe doing your own thing? Is that something that you ever thought about? Or you kind of I'm kind of going with the flow right now. We'll see what happens.
I am kind of going with the flow to see what happens. And obviously, eventually, hope to, move up in the market. But it's funny that you mentioned that because I have had a lot of people that have told me that I should branch off and do, kind of some of my own things. In fact, somebody,
I'm just saying, you kind of good. Just saying,
doing like the Patreon or the Patreon thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, Bree, like you should do it. And I was like, oh, okay, like, thank you. But no, and I think something like that would be fun. And I love watching Kevin Gray of 105.3. He does some videos and just some of the content things on that. Like I love watching stuff like that. I'm like, I feel like I should do more things like that, just random topics, or even Ari Timken does a lot of them, or Mike Fisher will put out a random one. I'm like, I should do that. Just jump on and you know, I'm obviously do the different matchup ones and stuff, but I think that'd be
Yeah,
fun getting on there and just talk about
just
random
talk.
stuff. But yeah, but I appreciate, you know, and love opportunities anytime anybody, you know, reaches out to me to do things like this. I love it because it's like, yeah, I feel I love being able to show, you know, the versatility and just talking football and just chatting about stuff. And it's a different dynamic than, you know, doing the on camera reports.
Right,
But
right.
I like it because you're able to get kind of, and that's another thing why I like articles is you're able to kind of dive in more because, you know, a report, you can only get so much off in like a minute or, you know, a minute and a half or however long it is. But in, you know, in something like this, you can really get down to the nitty gritty and really dive into
Mm-hmm.
things, you know, and in articles as well, as opposed to just kind of scratching the surface on, you know, a certain aspects. So, but yeah, it's always love doing it.
Yeah, I think definitely you should do it. Like I said, you can do you know you still got your thing with the D210 sports, but you know maybe on the side do your own little kind of personality kind of niche thing. You know what I'm saying? Because you know how it is when you're doing your thing. Like you said, when you're you know reporting, you only got this long a time. You can only say this much, or maybe you can
Right.
only you know squeeze out this. Where like you said, when you write an article, you can really dive into it and put your kind of your heart into it. You can put your own mantra, your own thoughts into it. So maybe, you know, you do maybe a little side thing here and there, you know, hey, this is Brianna. This is just me. I'm just talking some stuff today. You know, it's kind of just get your thing on because I think you a nice little up and comer, man. I'm not saying I'm anybody, so don't say that. But I'm just saying I really like your work and I really respect how your grind how you came up. So I just said, you know, maybe you want to look into something like that and do some little freestyle stuff as long as with your business. I think it could really grow. I think you got a brand that can pop.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And yes, I'm glad you mentioned that because yeah, you kind of reaffirmed some things that I've been
Uh-huh.
thinking about in
See,
my
things
mind. You
don't
know,
happen. See,
things
things happen
things.
for a reason. I talked to Big Game James today, and he said, yeah, I was thinking about that. He just confirmed it. So get out of my way. I'm about to do this. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Get my PC on channel.
But hey, we appreciate everybody jumping in the feed. Appreciate all my mods. Appreciate all my members. Appreciate all the donations that came through today. Appreciate all the love. Thank y'all for supporting Big Game James like you always do. And thank you, Miss Brianna Dix, for gracing my platform tonight. It's always a good time talking to you and much endeavors for you in your future. And hopefully we can get you on maybe at the end of the year and say, hey, what do we think about this season, dog? But hey, like I said, you know what I mean? What do you think about this season? You know what I mean? But we'll see how it goes. You know, we don't know. We'll see how it happens.
God.
But I appreciate.
Let's just pray that it goes better than the first half.
Let's just get rid of COVID. That's the biggest thing. Out of anything else, let's get rid of COVID. I just want to have fans back in the stands. Everything gradually get back to normal. We can live. You know what I mean? Because that's one of the frustrating things right now in this whole sports thing is people still can't really fully enjoy the sports like we want because of COVID going on. So hopefully that will, you know, die down and we can get back to some normalcy. You know, it was huge. I know it's different. Fans ain't there and they're making everything with the crowd noise, but I don't care. With them fans there, it does make a difference. It makes a huge difference in these games. You can tell.
It does. It does.
Man.
Like I remember at the going to the Saints game last year in New Orleans. I mean that dome.
The atmosphere is ridiculous.
The atmosphere, the sound. I mean, it is so noisy. Yeah, it's like I don't know how the heck offenses are working down there. I mean, that does make a huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
It really does. It changes definitely. So I think
changes the whole dynamics of the game. So hopefully we can get back to that soon. So
yeah, of course,
we'll see.
We're spiking, but that doesn't stop Jerry. You know, we're gonna keep packing.
We're still going. Hey, we got good air cooling systems in. We got space. We got good air cooling systems. So we're going to get at least 50,000 there because you know what?
Open up the doors. Open up the doors.
We gonna get. We can't have 100, but we gonna have 50. We gonna at least have the most. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Help us all. But hey, I appreciate you very much for jumping on here with me. Thank you very much again. And I'm gonna send this link out, and hopefully we can talk again at the end of the year and kind of make this happen. But shout outs to you, salutes to you, and Big Game James, Silver and Blue Nation, Miss Brianna Dix, and we out. Talk to you soon. Peace.